Welcome to the presentation on Virasana, or commonly translated as the hero's pose. This is a pretty basic sitting asana, good alternative for meditation or any seated type practice, and it's one of the really good everyday poses. It's also pretty difficult for a lot of people to get into this pose with ease or without some practice, which is another reason to practice it every day, is it really demands a lot on the ankles, the knees, and the thighs to release. So we'll give some variations to deal with that. But in order to get into the pose, you just can start with your knees together, close together, and the feet a little wider than hip distance apart. And now as you come back, you want to take the fingertips and put them right into the backs of the knees and flatten the calf muscle with the palm of your hand as you come back. So you'll be sitting on your hand initially. And this is really going to help broaden the calf and get a nice good contact there with the thigh, with the calf. And as you come back, you can just take the hands out from behind the knees. And then from there, you want to take the hands and adjust the thighs. Grab the inner thigh and the outer thigh and roll the thigh so that that inner thigh moves towards the ground and the outer thigh moves up towards the ceiling. This is going to give a good, strong internal rotation on the thighs to help ground the pose even further. And you can see here on this close-up that the inward rotation of the legs there. You can also put a strap on here to help keep the legs, the thighs in place and encourage that rotation. Along with that rotation in, the sit bones move out and away, which is a little more subtle action, but see if you can get a feel for that, as that'll really help to broaden the pelvis and broaden the sacrum. Along with that, you want to check the alignment from the knee through the ankle to the big toe and see if that you can draw a line there between those points. Be careful that the foot doesn't tuck too far in, the ankle juts out, but try to keep that line coming from the knee through the ankle to the big toe. Once you have that in place, you can take your hands onto the buttock flesh and really lift the buttock flesh up to expose the sit bone to whatever height, whatever you're sitting on here. So you should have a good, nice, firm contact with the sit bones onto your height. And you can once again release the hands from there. And see that the hands, I prefer the hands palm up. This keeps the chest slightly more open, keeps the mind a little more freer. You can find when you put the hands down, this tends to close off the pose and the mind a little bit too much. Watch as you lift the buttock flesh up that you don't overly arch the sacrum into the back body, overarching that lower back. Let's draw the top of the sacrum down so that lower back is a little more neutral. So just be careful of that point. As you're seated there, try to levelize the pressure on both sit bones and use that to help to lift up your spine and softly open the chest. Keep the chest open here. So this is the basic classical position. For those of you who is too much, you can take some kind of height under your buttocks as much as is necessary. Oftentimes, a block at any height that's appropriate for you will do the trick. One of my teachers used to say to get a phone book and take one page out every day, and before you know it, you'll be sitting on the ground. So that's another option. But any combination of bolsters, blankets, that kind of thing can help you get seated in this pose. And two other tricks to make the pose slightly more comfortable is you can take a rolled up sticky mat or a blanket and place it either behind the knees or directly under the ankles if any of those areas are bothering you. Likewise, you can do the pose on top of a blanket as well to add some padding to soften the knees. So those are just some basic adjustments to make this pose a little more comfortable as you learn it. But once again, I encourage you, it is a good everyday pose, especially for sitting, and really focus on getting that action of the thighs rolling in, the thighs releasing from the hip towards the knees, and the sit bones spreading outwards. And once you get comfortable in this pose and have some mobility, some openness in this pose, you can move on to Supta Virasana, which is a reclining version of this pose, which we have another video on. But really get some facility in this pose before you move on to that, because you don't want to force yourself into any of these poses, but take as much support as necessary so that you're comfortable in the pose and you're not pressing your body into something it's not ready for.